Throw your hearts up, let it fly high. Let your love for all the world spread through the skies. Let it drop down, let it all go. Spreading kindness to every single living soul.
Thank you all so much for joining us. And Joyfuel, I have to tell you, so Joyfuel started, well, really when I was born, but I started getting a name for it in about 2014. And I recognized after having a career in marketing and public relations, I was really keen to notice where a public relations person for kindness was. And I looked around, and at that point in my life, I didn't really see any. I hadn't really found any. And then one day, there was some groups that I was part of. I had an interview, and I saw myself being interviewed on the television. And usually I set other people up for doing the interviews and things. And I looked at myself, and I was being interviewed, and I thought, oh, there she is. She's the PR person for kindness. And I had this out-of-body experience. But what I had also recognized was, as I was looking for the PR person for kindness, I started finding all these other people. They started coming into my awareness. People like Greg Acuna, Joy Resor, and Louisa Garrett, who are our panelists today. And Joyfuel initially started out as an online play shop because I had 7 years of my life where I was depleted of my joy. And after those 7 years, I did many things to work towards reclaiming it. I didn't know that I had lost my joy. I didn't have words for it at the time. But over a period of time, I realized that the things that I had learned and the lessons that I was blessed to understand, and also with my love of communication, that I had a responsibility to start doing more things, more public relations for kindness, creativity, and joy. And so Joyfuel, thanks to a grant from the Pollination Project, it affirmed, when I got the grants from them, it affirmed to me that the work that I was doing was important beyond me thinking that it was important, getting that affirmation. And yesterday we hit 1,002 followers on our Joyfuel Facebook page. So that was an incredible affirmation this week, because we now more than ever need content that is uplifting and inspiring. And World Unity Week is about unifying us in a mission and in an understanding of compassion for each other and for the earth. And so that is Joyfuel's mission as well. I don't articulate it quite that way, but that's why it was so important that I jump in and get involved with World Unity Week this week. So I am so grateful to our panelists today because they jumped in. This was just completely love put together. I've had the privilege of knowing Joy and Greg for several years now. And Louisa, I started learning of Louisa's work, I guess it was last year. And I'm hoping that Louisa's still on the call. But let me just check, see if something happened. So anyway.
Dropped off, Becky. She dropped off because she was having trouble with her camera. It's dropped off and is trying to come back in right now.
Okay, all right, great. So when I started to really come to understand what World Unity Week was about and what Joyfuel's relevancy was to it, I realized that I'm blessed to know all these other PR people for joy and kindness, and thought we need to have this conversation, because these people who I'm privileged to know have such incredible wisdom and gifts, and they're so amazing at their stories that they tell. And I thought, let's just do a panel. So we literally pulled this together, and we're offering this to you with our loving hearts as a gift, this conversation that we'll have today. And I'm going to introduce our speakers. And Bob, if you could spotlight them so they can have a wave at everybody, that would be great. So Greg Acuna is from planet Earthlings. And Greg has an unusual combination of creative and business experience as a writer and a director, and he produces media projects. We could use you this week, Greg. And he ventures for major companies and is an innovative serial entrepreneur. Every time I talk to Greg, he has so many different amazing ideas and projects that he's working on and seeking funding for, and most of them are to do with kindness and technology. Like, so that's really excited. And I met Greg because he too received a Pollination Project grant. So welcome, Greg. I'm so happy that you're here. And Joy Resor is in North Carolina. Oh, Greg is in India. Joy is in United States, in North Carolina, in the state that I live in. And Joy and I met a few years ago, just a total blessing, total divine serendipity. Joy is a writer and an author and has a beautiful children's book and an adult book that when you read it, you remember the child that's in you. It's so inspiring. And so I'm really excited to introduce you to Joy. And then if Louisa comes back, I hope that we can get Louisa back. Louisa is also a Pollination Project grant recipient, and she, her company, it's a movement. It's called Make Kind Loud. Make Kind Loud. And she, every single day, posts something uplifting for kindness. And I really hope we can get her back on the call. So welcome, both of you. And welcome to our people who are in our Zoom room with us today. I wonder if either of you would like to just, say hello. Say a little bit about yourself.
I didn't hear you, Greg.
Greg, can you turn up a little bit and you go first, Greg?
Oh, okay. I'll go first. So I'm originally from the US. I grew up in Los Angeles. I've been living in India on the West Coast in Goa for almost around 18 years. My project is a project that's about creating games to change the world with a big emphasis on kindness. Becky had mentioned that we do tech games, and I am in the middle of a game I'm extreme. Oh, there's Louisa. Hi. You're sideways. I wonder why. Anyways, I'm currently working on a video game, which is called Frenemies to Friends. The idea is how to take a action-packed, normal type of game, initially for mobile phones that kids love to play, but instead of violence, we're making a game that's all about spreading kindness. So you got angry guys marching around and you're shooting little happiness emojis at them as they're shooting angry emojis at you and dropping angry speech bubbles at you. And as you hit them, they change from angry people into cute little aliens and they become your friend. And it's connected to the game that we've really finished that I'm very excited about is this one, which is called, it's a printed card game called Acting Kindly. This is the school version, which comes in a classroom pack. Oops, where's my camera? So this, when the schools get this, they have enough decks for 30 kids to play at the same time. And it's quite a revolutionary game. It's truly an antidote for bullying. It's a suit, when you watch the kids playing, it's pure joy. They're running around like crazy people, having the time of their lives. But what they're learning at the same time is, and it's a totally cooperative game, so everybody's playing together. It's not played inside, it's played outside during breaks, so the kids who are playing are interacting with kids who aren't playing. And it's really, how do you break down the barriers between kids to help them bond? And we've seen kids being really mean to each other before a game started, who are hugging each other in half an hour at the end of the game. So my idea is really, how do you create new experiences with games? Because a lot of people in the kindness community think I'm crazy because they're like, oh, you're making fun of kindness, and I'm not making fun of kindness. I'm making kindness fun. And games are such a powerful part of who we are. They're deep inside of us, number one. So we connect on that level. And secondly, it's the games are powerful because of how they change our mind. Our brains work differently when we're playing. So if you can get to kindness at that point, instead of just telling anybody, oh, go out and do an act of kindness. If you do it in a way where they're connecting with that playful, joyful attitude of childhood, it becomes a habit. So that's what we're doing. And I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much. Louisa, I'm so glad you made it back in. We're going to introduce our friend Louisa Garrett from Make Kind Loud, and would love to show you. We have her video. I'm like scrolling through. There she is. Good morning, Louisa.
Good morning.
So glad that you're here. I was talking about you with your ears ringing.
Yes.
So we're really excited to have Louisa here. Louisa, I wonder if you could just tell our viewers on Facebook and around the world a little bit about your beautiful heart.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. And literally, my mission is to make kind loud. And what that simply means is just to spread as much love and joy and kindness as possible, because negativity tends to shout and kindness tends to whisper. So we need to reverse that and make as much kind noise as possible. I know there are amazing things happening around the world. There are amazing people doing these amazing things, but we don't hear about them as often as we do the negativity. And I firmly believe in humanity. I believe that at the core, we are all good. And I just want us to rise together. And in order to do that, we have to use our voices for good. And we have to stand in the gap and make kind loud. And so that's really what my mission is, and what my life's purpose is.
That is fantastic. Well, welcome. You're in the right place, because shining for kindness. Thank you for joining us. Now we're going to hear from Joy, also in North Carolina. Good morning, Joy. Welcome.
Thank you, Becky. Good morning, everyone. Oh my gosh. I'm just so delighted to share this place today with Greg and with Louisa and with Bob and with Becky. I feel like a late bloomer, and that all those years I hid my light. I was so wounded for decades, and now I am this version of me, and books arrive. I never tried to write a book, and I have written amazing, inspiring books that change lives, that add kindness and joy and forgiveness. And like my children's book that you mentioned, Becky, it speaks also to the inner child of any person. And as that book was coming to me, I understood that a parent, an uncle, an aunt reading Designed to Shine, read aloud rhymes for any size heart to their child, would be healing a part of their inner child. And I've heard that over and over, that book seriously is for anybody who would like to get back in touch with their childhood essence. So thank you for
so much. That's so beautiful. Well, I'm so grateful for our panelists today true experts in joy and kindness, really inspiring. I have a couple of questions that I'd like to share with each of you and invite a conversation for us to have here today. And I noticed, I did welcome our guests in our room, some really special people, and we will hopefully get to a Q&A at the end of our time together. So if you have questions, please hold them to the end. So, you know, many times as joy activists and kindness activists, people may look at us and think, I felt this myself, and this energy of, oh, well, that's good for her because she's got, you know, and I do have a very blessed life, but as if there's no wounding in me, or as if there's no pain in me or sadness. And so as the world is hurting right now, and as we are really trying to make sense of everything that is rapidly upside down and changing, and all of these different things that need to change and need to heal, what do each of you do to cultivate your own joy? And what does self-kindness look like for each of you? And how have you processed or experienced what is going on in the world right now? And I'd love to start with Greg, and I guess go in the same order so we can hear. Greg, how do you feel about that question?
Well, I mean, first of all, you know, Lisa and I have exchanged some messages because I'm, you know, the world is in pain, but right now we've become acutely aware of it. But, you know, the fact is the world has always been in pain. I mean, I was fortunate enough to go to a totally integrated high school. My high school was 30% white, 30% African American, 30% Hispanic, and 10% Asian. And even as a high school student growing up in what I considered a poor family, when I went to visit my African American friends, I was shocked. I was just shocked, the poverty that I saw. And then later, as an adult, I lived in a part of Los Angeles that was just incredibly poor. And I would meet, you know, everything from young kids, you know, riding around the neighborhood to guys selling drugs on the corner. And I realized as a white, educated Jewish male, you know, I had amazing opportunity. And I was surrounded by people that were being horribly discriminated against. And so right now, my thing is, you know, I was in Los Angeles during the Rodney King riots, and I was like, yes, this is it. The revolution is coming. And nothing happened. I really feel like nothing happened. And you know, when I was in high school, in junior high school and high school, I was a speaker at both of my graduations. And both of the graduations, I spoke about man's inhumanity to man. And 40 years later, I'm filled with sadness. I know we're here to talk about joy, but I'm filled with sadness that I don't feel like anything's changed. And in some ways, I feel like, you know, you know, President Obama's election, you know, brought out how racist America was. And now the things that we're seeing, you know, it's just, I'm full of, I think one of the things that I found really interesting this week, I just realized that as I'm scrolling through Facebook, I'm using the sadness emoji, like in you know, where it used to just have the thumbs up. You know, I am seeing, literally, I must use it 50 times in a day, that I'm just seeing sadness everywhere. So I'm full of hope. Now. I think that I'm hoping that this is it, that people have finally said, oh my God, I didn't understand, and they want to understand and they want to face it. I'm scared because we've been doing this for, you know, 150 years, you know, much horror before that. So So yeah, so that's been hard. That's been hard. And I think that in terms of my own, where do I, find the strength to go on? I mean, part of it, I have a 17-year-old daughter who's just a joy to, crazy fun. And I just try to believe in what I'm doing. I try to think that, that I'm going to, I guess I'm lucky in that I see the world in cosmic time. I don't believe that civilization has yet to visit this planet. I really don't. I really feel that we think we're so civilized, and I think in thousands of years, people are going to look back and they're going to go, "Oh my God, these idiots." Yeah, I'm sorry. I really think that. So for me, like, I look at what I'm doing, thinking, will it have an impact on this generation? Like, some of the work that I'm doing is literally thinking about creating games that will change a generation of people. And when that generation grows up understanding that all those kids everywhere around the world are exactly the same in terms of, like, really deep inside, that's going to change. So, I don't know that it's going to happen this year or next year, but I'm hoping. I mean, I see my daughter, like, I see some of the things my daughter does, and I'm like, whoa. And I see some of the things that generation is doing. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
When they grow up, all that idiocracy is going to be gone. They're going to grow up and they're going to say, I don't give a damn what color your skin is, or what religion you are, what country you come to, or what football team you root for. It doesn't matter. So I try to grab onto that. It's not easy. I mean, I've spent several days in tears over the course of the last few weeks.
Well, I really appreciate your candor and your articulating that, and how, and then how your focus on the things that you can contribute, how that gives you the optimism. So I really appreciate how that came around to a full circle, and that was really a beautiful share. Louisa, I'd love to hear from you, and the same question, where you find joy in these times, and if you have any practices for joy or anything that you'd like to share on this topic.
Yeah, I mean, similar to Greg, I am, excuse me, a deeply feeling person. And so it's been difficult, but how do I keep going is that I just keep going. And it's, but in those moments where the sadness is too much, I have to take rest for myself. I have to literally, go to my room and be in a cave so that I can replenish myself, so that I can give out more joy and kindness. But the last, month or so has been very difficult. And typically I do a morning message every morning. And it's usually just, vibrant and say the exact same thing every single day. However, the last month or so, it's been a little different, calling people to action, because nothing will change if nothing changes. And so if we just go back to the status quo, then, as Greg alluded to, then we will continue this cycle for many years to come. Am I hopeful of what is to happen? Yes, I'm very hopeful, but that doesn't mean that things will change. We have to act on the kindness. We have to act on the good and the joy. And we have to continue conversations such as these. And we have to continue reaching across the aisle, because once we stop doing that, then we will revert back to old habits. And I believe that the time is now for all of those old habits to go away. But we have to act on it. And I get a little frustrated because I see the goodness in humanity, and I see the potential that we have, but potential means nothing if we don't do anything about it. And so, I just get up and I keep it moving. I have beautiful conversations with people. I get, when it's too much, I have to rest so that I can continue to spread the joy, but it really is showing up every day. It's showing up, it's having those conversations, and it's the willingness to listen, because everyone is going through something. Everyone has something in their life that maybe isn't great. And we have no idea what people are going through. We have no idea what people have had to endure throughout the course of their lives. And so just offer grace and try to understand, but mostly listen and mostly show up every day, even when you don't want to, because that is when the work happens. So I'm hopeful that this time things will change, but we won't know until it actually changes. And in order for it to change, we have to keep doing the work.
Thank you so much. That is really powerful and really beautiful. It reminds me of there's a line in this prayer for St. Francis that says, help me seek to understand more than to be understood. And it speaks of what you were saying about listening and stepping into that. And when we're, that was really beautiful. Thank you so much, Louisa.
Thank
Joy,
you.
I'd love to share the same question with you, friend, and hear your thoughts on this.
Thank you, Becky. I am a very unique, we're all so unique. And my journey, if you guys knew how sad I was as a child, how much I ran away from the table when the news of the Vietnam War was on the table while we were eating dinner, you would understand maybe that I don't watch the news, that I learn what's going on in the world from the times I pop into Facebook to bring light. And so I do know what's happening in the world. And my heart aches, and yet my container for holding everything has grown so much that I trust that the goodness in humanity is going to expand and expand and expand through all the work that we're doing and so many are doing, that this is going to be, well, I don't know about the world, but I know that as each one of us heals more inside ourselves. All right, let me go back. When I was a kid, I thought, how could I be a peaceful person when the world has starvation and murder and all this ugliness? And I was a little kid who didn't understand this planet that I landed in. And I wasn't even in my body for decades because I didn't want to be here. I did not want to be in a place where someone owns 8 homes and other people are starving. But lo and behold, life has brought me into my body, grounded. Life has brought me through so much healing that this person reached out at me from a podcast, and she's like, I want to talk to you, but I don't want to give this to you. And I said, dear one, I am so honored that you called me, Share what you need to share. I will hold it in confidence. And I was able to heal that woman of guilt. Not me. The energies through me healed that woman of her guilt. But I went on with my day. I don't need to hold her story in me. I have become an individual that is learning how to treat myself better and better and better every day so that I can have more energy to meet with people on Zoom, to when COVID wasn't happening, I was sitting in coffee shops simply breathing with my books on the table so that if someone felt that they wanted to come over to me, I would engage with them. I am actually learning how to be a human who knows how to engage with other people because I didn't learn it as a child. I learned to shut up and I ran out of the room. So,
Thank you so much. I can see so many similarities between the three of you, actually the four of us, listening and being a space and bringing forth the gifts that we are here to shine in the world, and to so that your share was really beautiful, Joy. Wow. I wonder if we could talk a minute now about the role of kindness to others and our own joy. And I wonder if there's an experience that you remember having, if each of you have always thought of yourself as kindness troubadours, this energy of where we're doing these things for kindness, or if it was something that happened to you later in your life where you realized, I like to consider in a spiritual sense that kindness is medicine, like a spiritual medicine, and it's for the giver and the receiver. And so I wonder with that, if there's any reflections. Greg, do you have any reflections on a story for kindness and that you'd like to share with us?
So the thing is that my mother wasn't the most sane person on the planet, but she was obsessed with helping people. She was constantly bringing people home, or suddenly, and we grew up pretty poor. I mean, there were times when we were on food stamps, we were on welfare, and we would be at the supermarket and she would see somebody and suddenly like one of our bags of groceries would be in the hands of somebody else, and it was just something I grew up with, and this idea that it's better to give than to receive was really a simple lesson that I grew up with. And then, but the one story, the thing that keeps popping up in my head, when I was 17, just before I started university, I had an old VW station wagon, and I often had to park it on a hill because this car almost never started. But the number of people who stopped to help me push start that car when I was 17, 18 years old, I think that was in many ways like a turning point. I cannot see somebody on the side of the road needing help without stopping, because it just happened to me literally probably hundreds of times over the course of the 2 years that I had that car. And every time somebody stopped, it was just be like, thank you. Oh, it was like, and I could see that because I'm such an emotional person and I was so excited and happy and so thankful that I think it made their day. I mean, they just glowed with the opportunity to help somebody. So now I look at it and I think that one of those things, trying to explain to people that when they give me the opportunity to help, that it really is, you know, that they're doing me a favor. So, you know, so I've had that, you know, I don't know, it's something about my ego, my own kind of space, and I've always just loved helping people. So it's stayed with me, and now I'm making games to try to spread that around.
That's fantastic. That's amazing. Louisa, would you like to respond to the question?
Yeah, so I've been on my kindness journey for probably about 8.5, 9 years now. But prior to that, I was super sarcastic, and I had come back for everything. If you said something, I was locked and loaded, ready to fire. I had it. I was always going to get the last word. And if I was right about something, everyone was going to know that I was right. And so I have 24 nieces and nephews, and they are indeed the loves of my life. And one of them lived with me during her high school years. And, you know, she was going through her teenage angst and, you know, whatever teenagers go through, we all went through it. And when I would tell her to do something, whether it was to clean her room, do her homework, clean the kitchen, it didn't matter. She would always say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I'm like, okay, clean your room, do what I tell you to do, right? And so this went on for, you know, probably about a year, always. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, in her little 15-year-old voice, right? And then fast forward another 6 months or so after the year, someone said something to me that was completely off the wall. And I thought to myself, I said, well, why did you say it like that? And as soon as I thought those words, her little voice popped in my head and said, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so if I wanted to be a role model to my nieces and nephews and my basketball team and the people who are in my life, then I needed to make a change in who I was being in the world. And so I made a choice in that moment to be kinder. Now, was it easy? No, because like I said, sarcasm was my default. And so the first couple of years was very difficult because I was ready to shoot off whatever you had to say, and I had to take pause and think to myself, do I really need to say that? Do I really need to say it in this way? And that allowed me to exercise my kindness muscle, and that allowed me to really understand the power of words and the power that people have to impact other people. Like, we cannot change people in the world. We just can't. I mean, that's a choice that everyone has to make for themselves. But what you can do is tweak who you are if you aren't showing up as your kindest self. And so that's what I've done over the past, 8.5, 9 years, is just to work out that kindness muscle and to decide every single day who I want to be. And, I'm not perfect by far, not in the least. I still have my moments. But the beautiful thing is that even if you have a moment where you are not your kindest self, the very next moment you can choose to be. You can switch it. And so if we're consciously making the decision to be kinder, and we're consciously making that decision in every interaction, Joy, you alluded to changing the world. That's how we change the world, one person at a time. Because if I make that impact, Greg had a situation when he was 17, 18 years old about his car, and that has stuck with him his entire life. And he helps people on the side of the road. And so we don't know what our legacy is. We don't know the ripples of kindness, because we have no idea what people have gone on to do in their personal life. So just to show up in kindness as often as you can, and even on your bad days, you can still get up the next day and choose kindness. And so that's my journey to kindness. And I love seeing people smile. My goal in life is to make people smile every single day. And so that's the joy that I get, is when I see people smile, when I see people understand the impact of kindness. And that is really what continues me on today.
And that is really apparent on your website. You know, you make people on your Facebook page. You make, the three of you do, but I'm talking to Louisa, visiting your site. You smile and you bring such love and joy, and in the way you talk about kindness, it's really infectious. Yesterday, I was looking at something on your page, and afterwards, the words this popped in my head, and I don't mean any disrespect to Gandhi, but I thought, we must be the Facebook page we wish to see in the world. Heart tips to Gandhi. And I thought, you know, and I see that in each of you. That's why regard you guys as joy casters, because even on the days that it's hard, you show up and you're doing this work. It is work, and it's a blessing to us to dig deep and have it be a practice, and then it can ripple out. You never know, like you said, Louisa. Thank you for sharing that. Joy, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Thank you, Becky. It's so interesting. Your questions are so deep and powerful. I could actually write for hours on your question. And I'm doing my best to listen to Greg and to Louisa while my brain's going like through this and woo.
You're writing your next book, Joy.
Oh, but oh my gosh, kindness. I would say that I was born so sensitive and then raised in this codependent family. So we were trained to meet everyone else's needs, trained to put the mail over here before dad came home, and trained, you know, I was a hostess at Bob Evans decades ago. I have a welcoming, kind personality. Strangers have told me secrets, you know, because of just something about me. And I love that what you said, Louisa, because I'm learning that the echoes of anything lovely that I've done over time, and how it's really a remarkable, life is so remarkable. So that you guys, right now I am writing, I'm a pen pal with 2 people in prison. And it just was one of those happenings. It's because I wrote a book. It's because this man ended up with a prison ministry, a prison book ministry, sending my books to prisoners. And then a couple prisoners wrote to me. I could have put that letter somewhere, but no, you send me a letter, I'm going to write you a letter. And then they write and they write. And now this one young Native American, bless his heart, Native American young man is out of prison. And I said, I'll still write if you want to still write. And he's like, are you kidding? You are my lifetime friend, Joy. So that's what I'll say.
I had myself muted. Oh, that was amazing. That's amazing. Helping people who are, you know, pushed out of society because of some choices that they made that we neglect and we forget about these people, and the choices that they made do not define them as people. And so it is so beautiful that you're honoring their humanity through that kind of kindness, this radical kindness. That is beautiful. Well, we are now on the top of the hour, and for those of you who are just joining us, I'm Becky with Joyfuel, and we are having a really beautiful conversation with Greg Acuna from Planet Earthlings and Louisa Garrett from Make Kind Loud. and Joy Resor from Joy on Your Shoulders. And I'm just delighted to be hearing the wisdom of these amazing people and to have you all here. And we would love to invite you into the conversation. I saw on Facebook that you guys asked for us to post the contact information for everybody. So I just did that, or where it's coming. If it's not out there, I'm hoping that Bob can help with that. If it's not possible, Bob, let me know and I can get in on Facebook and I can post that info.
You're already done. All three
Oh,
of them.
fantastic. That's awesome. So we want to communicate with our friends on Facebook, and we have our live room here going too, but super grateful for this technology that's being used for kindness. You know, using, I really believe like where we show up is a sacred place because we are sacred. And so we're having this conversation about kindness and joy, which are sacred topics, and having that here on Zoom. This is a sacred way of us meeting and having this conversation. So I'm really excited. So if you have any questions, actually, do the three of you have a question, like a quick question between each of you, like each of you take a turn and ask a question of the other, and then we'll go and we'll look on our feed and see if there are any questions from our viewers. Anybody have a question they'd like to ask each other? I'll stand, if you don't have, we can go out to the audience, but because you're all here and looking at each other in this way, you guys get privileges.
Well, I'm on Joy's Amazon page, and I see 4 books. How long have you been writing?
Well, I've been writing my whole life. It started as the books started arriving in 2014 when Divinity woke me up and said, Joy, use the lessons of your life to inspire readers. And before that, I was writing in a journal every single day for decades. Thank you.
Does anybody have a question for Greg or Louisa in our group? Louisa, do you have a question?
Yeah, Greg, how are the games going?
Yeah, the new game is turning out really cool. It's but it's a lot of work. I mean, creating a great video game is, and I'm doing this one totally on my own. Still haven't come up with the money to hire the right people, so I'm doing everything, all the design and programming. So it's getting to the point. I'm hoping, I started a Patreon page a few days ago with the idea of seeing whether or not people wanted to contribute to the project in order to be able to get the game early to test it. So nobody seems to be interested yet, but I'm hoping in 1 month we'll start the beginning alpha testing. Check to see how it's doing on different phones, and I'm starting within the next few days. I'll start building more levels.
That's awesome.
Greg, I have a question for you. What's the response of the kids playing a kindness game? Because my kids aren't big gamers, but well, actually my older daughter is becoming one. She's in college now, but they haven't typically been big gamers. But in the gaming community, I know that there's a lot of really scary games and unsettling games that are out there. And so I wonder how, I know as parents, we would feel wonderful knowing that your game is in our children's lives, having a game that's about kindness, but how does that weigh up to the other options, that kids want, and what's been the response for the kids?
So, all right. So first of all, there's an interesting thing that I'm going to have to bring up often as we start to go public with this game, because I like to be honest, and that is I don't believe that violent video games make people violent. As a matter of fact, I believe a lot of the very popular games, shooting games that are out now, are incredibly cooperative experiences, that they're making kids social, they're teaching them how to work together. And I prefer the ones that are more cartoony than the ones that are more realistic. but my master's degree is in writing theater. And so the essence of drama is conflict. The most conflicting thing is death. So I don't see any problem with that. But I'm happy to give an alternative. And I believe that if you want to compete with that kind of thing, you've got to make games that are incredibly entertaining and engaging. So when we first started testing the Acting Kindly card game, I was super excited because the kids loved it so much they wouldn't stop playing. So they enjoy it. Now for the video game, I've had kids from about the age of 7 up to about the age of, well, my daughter has played it. She's 17, but I've had like 14, 15-year-old boys play, and they've loved it. They've loved it. They've been really engaged, and I mean, there have been some funny experiences. Like one of the kids was like, I killed him. I said, you didn't kill them. You made a friend. But, you know, because the gameplay is very similar to a shooting game, but nobody's dying, and it's all fun, and there's happy messages, and there's, you know, everything from kindness quotes and kindness signs inside the game to between the levels. There are real world challenges that challenge them to go out into the real world to do acts of kindness. So I believe the game is going to, I'm really excited because this has been the most difficult project of my life. And we've had a lot of difficulty, a lot of, you know, ups and downs. And I really believe that this game, you know, could take the project to the next level. I think that there is a backlash against violence in games. And I think I agree. I think parents are going to really like the idea that there is an entertaining, fast-paced game that kids thinking about, oh, it's kind of fun to be nice, you know? So
That's great. Well, you're meeting kids where they are, and then you're giving them assignments to commit acts of kindness in real life. Is that what, did I hear that right?
Yeah, no. So basically, first of all, in the game, like when you get to what's called the navigator, because it's all science fiction, you're like, a robot comes to Earth and says, hey, there's a kindness rift in quadrant XV4, and, you know, will you go help? And you're like, I'm gonna, you know, can you save the galaxy? So they go, and then they become a cute little alien, and then they're running around in the thing. But on the navigator, there's galactic wisdom, which is kindness quotes, which you can scroll through. And then when you go into the game, there are these beautiful kindness signs that you get points for clicking, and then they come out. So it takes a moment pause from the action to read the sign, and the same with the quotes. And then when you finish the level, well, first of all, he said the game is connected to the Acting Kindly game. So each level is connected to one card from this. So when you make a friend, they drop a card from the Acting Kindly deck, and that gives you a superpower. So the first level, initially you're just shooting happiness emojis, but then when you pick up the complementarian card, which is tell somebody something nice, when you shoot, you're shooting little happiness, you're shooting little speech bubbles, and as it hits them, little compliments pop up. So,
That's
and then when
great.
you finish the level, then you get these different challenges saying, you know, that are connected to the card. So it's all connected to the Acting Kindly game. So it's
That's fantastic.
really fun game.
I'm not a gamer, but you're making me like, I want to try it.
And it's fun, and it's really beautiful. It's like it's people will say, oh no, it's, you know, kids have ADHD and this is going to be a normal video game. It's lots of animation and fireworks and all this stuff going on. But for me, like you said, I think we need to meet kids where they play.
Yeah.
We can't expect them just immediately, boom, change to something
Right.
totally.
Right. And it's seed planting, you know, anything that we give to children as their brains is still developing up to age 25, what they're exposed to as seeds, you know, whether they blossom at that time or whether it comes out later in life. So I think it's really beautiful and inspiring that you've taken your entrepreneurship and combined your theater background, all of these skill sets that you have in technology to create something that's really going to make a difference with these children's lives and in their demeanor. We thank you. We have a question actually from Gail, and I think Gail had to leave our Zoom room. So we have two questions, and Louisa, I'd love to pose this question to you. Gail Burkett asks, this is to do with our collective play histories. Is play alive in your life right now? And she's said so joyful to join you all this hour, and she had to leave. So Louisa, I'd love to hear if you have any acts of play that you have, anything that you do for play.
Yeah, so I hang out with my nieces and nephews. They keep me young. They are hilarious, and just being in their energy is amazing, and it allows me to, because they range in age from 36, she'll be 37 next week, but 36 down to 2. And so the 12 to 17-year-olds are the ones who are just hilarious, and they keep me grounded, and they keep me young and hip. And so just being in their energy and hanging out with them and learning and seeing life through their 15-year-old eyes is a beautiful thing. And so that's where I get most of my play from. Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry, I have a thank you. That's really a great share. I have a question next for Joy, and this comes from, I really hope I'm saying your name right, because I interact with you on social media, and this is me saying this to Darina. We message each other, but I've never actually spoken to her. So Darina Stoyanova asks this question for Joy. What brings you the most joy these days? For Joy.
I have become such a present moment person, in that I know that in each moment, that's where you call it the sacredness, Becky, and I call it where life is. So the joy that I've had being here today with all of us has been great. But to answer that play question, I hula hoop often, because when I had such deep creative wounds, and I studied that classic book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I studied it over and over. And one of her questions is, what did you do as a kid? And the next day, in the frozen food department at a discount store, there was one pink hula hoop that I knew it was for me, because I had written the word hula hoop. I didn't see all the ones in the toy department. I saw the one where I saw it. So yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, hula hooping. Yes, and being in the moment. There's so much wisdom in that. You know, I mean, I know the weight of everything in the world right now is trying to rob us of our joy. And yet where we are right now, if we have self-awareness and self-cultivation of self-kindness and presence where we are okay. And while our brothers and sisters may not be okay, if we fulfill our hearts and our cups and breathe and care for ourselves right in this moment, then we can come from a space where we're able to contribute ideas and listening space to support each other, to let the emotions that are really difficult to process be released. Going back to what we were saying about listening. So I really appreciate that, Joy, the reminder of being in the present moment and finding joy in the present moment. I'm wondering if there are any other questions. Looking through our scrolls here. Is there anybody else in our Zoom room that has any questions that you'd like to pose? You're invited to put them in the chat, and we can share them with our our Joycasters. I think I did say what Joycasters are, but for those of you who are just joining us, I'm Becky Suzik with Joyfuel, and we are with a panel of Joycasters. I love calling them Joycasters. I think Greg actually helped me come up with that word a couple of years ago. We were brainstorming, what are people who spread joy, kindness, and creativity in the world? And we had this list going. We were going back and forth for a while, and somehow I landed on Joycasting, playing on the word broadcasting. And so we have this amazing opportunity to hear from our Joycasters, our joy experts, kindness experts, Greg Acuna, Louisa Garrett, and Joy Resor, our global community of panelists here, and we are streaming live around the world with other people in other parts of the world who are tuning in and hearing our storytelling today. So I'm really grateful for everybody for joining us. I don't see any. Oh, let me see. It's all happening live
on the Facebook stream.
Yeah, we're looking on the Facebook stream too. We're looking at those, and we've had a couple, but we've answered those. So I'm really grateful. We're going to get ready now to wrap up, and I just before we go, just want to thank you, the three of you, for what you shared today, for your realness, you know, the authenticness. You know, people may see pictures of us smiling, and that is the huge piece of who we are, but there is an underside that is also this place that we come from too, that it's grounded and that it's real. And so hearing each of your stories and what you're processing and holding in this time that I feel is a great time of world change. I feel like we're in the middle of this humanity quantum leap towards love, putting the word love in the word revolution. The Beatles used to sing. I love the Beatles. And oh, you say you want a revolution, we've got the love-evolution, and we're, you know, this time where we're away from each other, where we're physically, you know, trying to take care of each other, to be physically away from each other, and yet somehow things like World Unity Week are unifying us in this extraordinary way, where we can connect to new ideas and messages, where we can have conversations like this with people around the world, that has made our Gaia, our planet, just accessible, you know, that we can actually, we can have, you know, these connections in different time zones, and honor each other, different parts of the world. So I thank each of you so much. I thank Bob for being our tech support today. I thank our guests for coming into our Zoom room, and our guests for being on our Facebook stream. And I thank all of the people who are going to watch this in the future, which it won't be the future when you're watching it, because it'll be your time now. But I project our love into the future, because I know that people are going to want to watch and hear the wisdom of the three of you on in the future's time. This is going to be the longest. This is like, I was talking to John Raymer, who's one of the event organizers for World Unity Week, and he's like going on less sleep than I am. I'm like, this is incredible, you know, but this is a marathon. It's not a sprint, but we're offering these amazing stories, and the fact that Joyfuel has been able to bring you all together is just a dream for me. I'm so grateful. So I thank you, each of you, so much for joining us today, and for our viewers, and send my love. And the last thing that I want to do before we end our call, I love to do this. So when we're, you know, everybody, we're now in these Zoom rooms, and we don't get to hug each other anymore, right? Because we can't hug each other because we're in Zoom rooms. We're not with each other. So instead of a hug, what I'd like to do is have everybody hold up their hand on the screen. And I see you people on Facebook, you don't have your hands up. Hold your hand up. I know you don't, I can't really see you, but I can feel you don't have your hand up. You hold your hand up, and you can just feel love coming from my heart out through my hand, through into the microphone and into the camera, and it's going right back out. And I want this to be the hug that you haven't had in a long time. I'm giving you a hug, and all of us here in our Joyfuel group here, we're all sending you our love through our hands, and we have so much gratitude. Thank you all so much for being with us, and blessings to everyone, and hopefully see everybody again in some of our other events.
Thank you.
Thank you
People
so
can
much.
see you smiled even in the mask.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Throw your hearts up, let it fly high. Let your love for all the world spread through the skies. Let it drop down, let it all go. Spreading kindness to every single living soul. Can you see your love from me shining through? Cause what you see in me, I can see in you. And soon enough, you and me will be out of time.